Hey, welcome back. We're Chris and Jaime, and this is our sweet pup, Bo. 2 years ago, we made the leap of moving from our 600 square foot apartment in Miami to the mountains of Bryson City. It's been our dream to develop our property and acclimate to small mountain town lifestyle. Last week, we completed a big project. Our luxury soaker tub is officially done, and we have only one more big step to get our CO from the county and rent our apartments. This week, we're taking a little break from that and hosting a long overdue Q&A. We're answering all your questions about what life looks like to visit or live in Western North Carolina. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Join us. A quick note from the editor's room. I realized as I was editing this video that it may have a little less action than you're used to. So, just a quick note. This is a Q&A video. In the caption below, you'll actually see that this is separated out into chapters. You can click around and go to whatever questions are most applicable to you should you not want to hang tight and watch the video unfold, which you're of course free to do. YouTube also has this great functionality. Then you'll see this row below me also has little lines that you can choose. So in case we start a question and you don't really care for that question and you want to hop around, please feel free to do so. I hope you find this helpful, and I hope that we've answered all your questions about visiting or moving to Bryson City, North Carolina. And now back to the video.
So we're here at Oconaluftee River Park. It's a nice little park area over in Cherokee. Check it out. Welcome. We are here to answer some questions that I believe are interesting to some or most of our viewers. It's questions that we've gotten via comments, or also I think you've gotten messages on Instagram.
We've been teasing this for a long time, and
I feel like we've answered certain questions here and there,
True.
but we've never really intentionally sat down and been like, question number one. Here's
we've
our
done
answer.
it individually. So this is our collective answering for anyone who may be wanting to visit or make a change with their life or even move to this area, to Western North Carolina. This will address a lot of things.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
They're ready. All right. First question. Why Bryson City, and did you consider other areas?
All right, I'll take this one.
Okay.
So, the reason for Bryson City is that my grandparents moved to Bryson City when I was about 15 years old. That's the first time I'd ever heard of Bryson City and or had any family in Western North Carolina. But with my grandparents here, I got to visit a lot. Fast forward a whole bunch of years after that, Chris and I started dating, and I brought her up here to visit my grandparents in Bryson City, and we liked it. We came up here a few years in a row for like either Christmas or summer, spring, something like that. Actually had our engagement party at my grandparents' house in Bryson City. Fast forward slightly bit more, we decided at one point that we wanted to leave Miami and the opportunity to purchase my grandparents' own house was a potential option. So that's pretty much what moved us to Bryson City. That being said, that house ended up falling through, at which point we really started researching and checking out everything. We were living in Asheville at that point. We went north east, south of Asheville, west, of course, towards Bryson City. Checked out, other towns like Waynesville, Silva. Saw a bunch of properties, bunch of houses. And after about 2 or 3 months, we still loved Bryson City.
Yeah,
and
it was still our spot.
Yeah, it was still our spot. And we saw a lot of towns, hours from Asheville in all directions. So
I think there's something really special about Bryson City. And that's ultimately why we ended up there. It was kind of an indescribable thing. I feel like the other people who ended up choosing it as their final moving place would agree with us. There's just like an intangible specialness.
Don't go so far, bro.
Yeah, don't scare us. Next question. I'm gonna combine this.
Good, because it's freezing.
Okay. Are there other younger people there, and was it easy to make friends? I'm gonna take this one. Okay. Yes and yes. So, actually, when we moved here, although we did start to meet people, it wasn't that many people. There was the promise of young people from 1 or 2 people we had regular conversations with. And I remember distinctly the feeling of when we had just closed on our house and everything was done. And I looked around and I was like, shoot, are there any young people here? I really didn't look to that. That wasn't one of our criteria for moving, which is kind of crazy now that I look back. And I was depressed for a moment, thinking that, oh my God, we've just moved somewhere and there's no one else our age here. We were in our early 30s. So we went down to BCO, which was our usual hangout spot. And that's when we met our first friends who are our age, probably a bit younger than us actually. And then we started to open ourselves up to an entire world of a ton of people who are young in their 20s to their 30s to 40s, to all kinds of ages, that have picked up their life and decided to live here in Bryson City. So yes, if you're young, there's young people. There's people of all ages, really. The point is that it's not all just one age group. So I think no matter what life stage you're in, you're gonna find your tribe. And yes, it was very easy to make friends. They were extremely open. They're such kind, she's in the river. Kind people. Shit, sorry.
The feeling we're trying to describe is that we thought maybe a small mountain town is full of people that have retired and are now in their 60s, 70s, and so on and so forth. So that was definitely not the experience, and we definitely got to meet a lot of really cool
different life stages, age groups.
Yeah.
Some
transplants, some locals.
Yeah.
What was a really great story is that we closed late December, had family over for the holidays, and then everyone left us alone essentially in our new home beginning of January, and no tourists are in Bryson City. Everything is dead per se, but he created this opportunity for us to go to the local bars, and really all we would meet would be locals because all there was locals. So it was a perfect way to start our life in Bryson City. I would suggest if you're going to start your life at a small town, somewhere in the mountains,
especially if it's like a resort town, a tourist town,
choose
a town
the time that's downtime,
no one's there.
Off season, because that's the best time to meet the people that will be there.
Yeah.
Had we moved here in July, maybe we would have met some cool people, and then the next weekend they would have been gone because they don't live here. So that was
Pro
pretty
tip.
great. Pro tip.
Pro tip.
Next question.
All right, I get this question phrased in a bunch of different ways, so to make it the most simple, what are the pros and cons specifically for moving to a small town when you're used to and are coming from a big city? Start with the cons.
That's funny. I felt like that was sort of a negative way to go, but my thought
Can only go
process
up.
was, it's a good way to look at it too. There's not that many in my mind. It takes a minute to get used to it.
Yes, the transition is definitely a con if you come from a city where you're used to a lot of activity, a lot going on, then the pace is going to be jarring. It was for me, and we're not particularly very fast-paced people, but it's a transition.
It's a challenge to get accustomed to really being creative and figuring out what you want to do for fun, what you want to do to entertain yourself. Any of that stuff, like at first, even though we moved to the mountains, we were like, we're going to do all kinds of outdoor stuff. We literally barely went outdoors, and because I think we were so used to, well, what are we going to do? We got to go have a drink somewhere, and after a while, there really isn't a whole bunch of places to go have a beer. I mean, there are plenty of breweries, but it's not like a big city. So it was getting out of the mentality.
Come here, Bo. Come here.
Excuse me, 1 second. People walking by. We don't know how they are with dogs.
Bo.
She's back.
That's what you were saying.
So it's getting used to the not needing to go somewhere to be somewhere to consume
do
something.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
more of enjoying sitting here on a bench. Once that's something we got used to, the pros of living here are just countless. I
Well,
feel.
there's more cons, I think, we get to address. Like, cons. If you want a Whole Foods, they don't have that here. If you want to get an Uber or a Lyft, they don't have that here.
No delivery.
No
of
delivery,
food.
yeah, none, no delivery of foods. And these are minor inconveniences, and that at first felt much of a bigger deal. And now I don't even think about them.
There's different things, but at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of the problems were like within the mentality of still going somewhere to consume something.
Yeah, but I guess we don't inherently find anything to be insurpassable or something that we even miss or think about.
Yeah.
Honestly, we really don't. Pros. I think we kind of already got into some of the pros. The first and biggest pro for sure is exactly what you were saying on the type of life. In a city, it's very easy to get wrapped up on the doing, always being somewhere and being in a rat race, so to speak. And then here, it's all about the being. And if you come here, again, part of my transition was also, well, I'm in a place with very little distractions. So if there's stuff going on inside of me, I no longer have the luxury of plugging in and tuning out. Like here, it's one of the first things is that I heard myself, and I knew for the first time things that I hadn't even thought about in years, and they were coming up because there was nothing else to come up. I'm in an environment where this is all there is. So getting out of a consumption and also tuning into yourself. And I think many people would have that experience.
Guys, this is going to happen throughout the video. I'll just put you on leash just for a little bit, just to see how it feels. I'm getting a thought out.
Okay.
So, mountains. The great part about mountains is that
We're for 'em.
we're for them. We like them. They like us. No, the great part about mountains is no matter where you are, you tend to see them. You tend to be able to enjoy their beauty, whether
Can't
you're
forget you're here.
on the highway, whether you're at home. Like they're everywhere, and they're higher up than you are normally. So you get to look up and see them literally everywhere. So nature, mountains, that is probably the biggest pro, I would say, right alongside peace and tranquility. As much as we work from home, we're stressed out with construction sometimes, and we got a lot going on, it also feels different because
It's a different
you can
context.
step out the front door or
Yeah.
even just look out the window. And, yeah, mountains are serene. Mountains seem to provide a lot, not just the beauty of them being around all the time, but climbing one too, like you just said. Like, that's great. I love doing that. Mountain biking, another thing. Fantastic, so much fun. And then you got tons of rivers if you're into kayaking, canoeing, whitewater rafting, tubing. Pretty great.
Yeah, I think the next pro I would say would be lifestyle. So if you're an outdoor enthusiast and a person that likes to go on a hike for a weekend, you have an endless amount of options here. I mean, the Great Smoky National Park is the most visited national park.
Great Smoky Mountains.
Excuse me. Great Smoky Mountain National Park is the most visited. So you have so many different trails. I mean, there's no way if we did a trail every single weekend, we still wouldn't see everything. So you have endless amount of options if you're someone who likes to be outside.
I got a really big pro.
But
Beer. Western North Carolina has such
Yes.
great beer. It
hasn't
is
taken us this long.
ridiculous.
Craft beer.
You have brewmasters here, I think, that know what they're doing. I think that's really what it comes down to. And it's just such an abundance of breweries. It's crazy.
Beer culture. I think that's what I've got one more pro that's gonna set us up for our next question.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Segue.
Okay. Big pro. Coming from a bigger city, specifically and moving into a smaller town, is the cost of living. Oh my God, guys! Like one of the biggest pain points that we experienced before we moved, we have good jobs, And it was impossible to look at buying a house in Miami. I mean, for what we were looking for, which wasn't exactly anything out of this world, we were looking at $500,000 easily for like a 3-2 with work that needed to be done, not even that big of a yard. And so those numbers for us, and I think for the typical average person in their 20s or 30s.
For a first home, essentially.
For a first home, that's a lot. So here, the cost of living is much more fair, and we're able to go out and enjoy our lives. We're able to start our lives, and I think that's a really big pro. I'm not saying that it's cheap. As a matter of fact, places like even Asheville are much more expensive than what I anticipated coming from Miami, but it's really a lot more fairly priced, and people can start their lives sooner.
And back to the beer. Beer is also cheaper than in big cities. So.
Okay, what's the job market like in a small mountain town?
Let me take this one for a minute.
You can take it.
So disclaimer, we don't really know. We've never applied for a job here, and that's a fact. So everything we share with you is things that we've sort of experienced, seen around, and heard from others. We brought our jobs here. It's a job from Florida that we are currently working remotely in North Carolina, in this small town. Entrepreneurs seem to do well here. A lot of things having to do with tourism, whether it's our friends that own the outdoor shop and beer bar, whether it's other friends that have vacation rentals.
Artists.
Artists as well. I guess I don't know how much. Well, yeah, artists. Yeah, absolutely. Interruption. We have the Cherokee Fire Department. I don't know what they call it.
Okay. So what are the jobs that, in our experience, people tell us are here?
Okay.
Industries or jobs, however.
Really, I think hospitality is what a lot of people do when they come here. There's jobs at breweries, restaurants, bars, all kinds of stuff like that. Also, retail, gift shops, clothing stores, outdoor shops, bike shops, all of that kind of stuff. The people that come in and do work there with seasonal work, exactly, whether they're whitewater raft guides or kayaking lessons, I'm sure, that kind of stuff. So outdoor sort of situations. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the market here. Like we were talking about this earlier today, if you work in a marketing agency, you're not going to find a marketing agency here. You're probably going to have to work for one remotely and live here.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Unless you have that entrepreneurial bone in your body and you're like, well, maybe I could consult here.
The point is that I think as places get more populated, there's opportunity for that. But right now, what our experience is a lot of people bring their jobs, work within hospitality or with nature, and pretty much cater to what the biggest business for North Carolina is, which is going to be tourism. I think for any small town at least, maybe not all of them.
And even entrepreneurs are probably hitting more of the tourism with vacation rentals or gift shops or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and like you were saying, those, like I'm going to call them essential workers, because no matter where you are, you're going to need teachers. You're going to need doctors, pharmacists, all that kind of stuff, physical therapy. I think that there are opportunity with that.
If you already got a ton of money, then come here and just hang out,
Blow it
That's
here.
what we're, exactly.
Just kidding.
That's it.
Life here is great. It really is. There's something that's just so beautiful about spending time here. So if you're thinking about moving here, we highly encourage it. I think even simply spending time here and visiting can do so much for you. Like, I genuinely believe that. Before we moved here, every time I would visit this area, I left walking a little bit taller, feeling inspired, intentional, and clear and focused. And when I got back to life, I was ready. So I feel like even if it's to come visit this area or to move here or whatever, I just think that there's something really beautiful and calming, and I think it's already here. It's just in the mountains, this area.
And that's all we got for today.
With that, we will leave you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sending us all of your questions, all of your comments, all the things that you're curious about. If you're curious about other things, please let us know. If you're a local or if you visited and you have a different perspective or an experience that you want to add, please leave a comment. It's really helpful, and it'll help other people who are looking to find out a little bit more about this beautiful corner of the world that we inhabit.
Yes, and if you like this, as usual, we would appreciate the thumbs up. I'll give you one right now. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We're really motivated to keep sharing once a week. That's our goal. And so far, we've been crushing that goal.
Killing it.
And she's doing all the editing, so I appreciate it.